Folks, thanks for joining us today. My name's John Dubas with Premier Marketing, and we'll be spending the next hour or so discussing the possibilities you have to engage your prospect and book of business community with a program that is sometimes out of the scope of understanding of some folks as to the need of a plan like this. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope you find it as much of value to yourself and to your people that you meet as I do in my own personal life. Today's presentation is being recorded, and so everyone who raised their hands with interest in this program or in today's webinar will receive an email with the link to that recording. It will also be posted on our website at premiersmi.com and on our YouTube channel, but you'll get also additional information that we reference throughout the course of the presentation. You'll notice in the software there's a section for questions and a section for chat. What we're looking for is as a question comes to mind, put it in that section the question section, so we can make certain that we address all of the inquiries that you have. We normally do that through the course of the presentation, answer the questions, but we want to make certain that we do that. So watch for that. We're going to start with just a little bit of level set as to who Premier Marketing is. Many of you are familiar with us, some may not, but we're a national marketing organization licensed in all 50 states, founded in 1968. We're part of the Integrity Marketing Platform with offices across the country. We act as an insurance wholesaler, delivering programs to the general public through independent insurance agents and agencies such as yourself. And we do so through a contracting arrangement at the highest possible commission levels with recruiting contracts available to those who qualify. That effort is carried out through a full portfolio of products, including the Medicare programs, Medicare Advantage, MedSup, standalone prescription drug plans, but also through life insurance and annuity portfolio, final expense life insurance offering, pre-need plans, long and short-term care programs, disability income, and ancillary products like the one we'll discuss today, but also dental, vision, hearing, critical illness programs in addition to the cancer plans, hospital indemnity programs, accident plans, and even telehealth through MD Live. When you look at the Medicare Advantage portfolio, it's robust with the national carriers. They're available for you through our organization, and many of the strong regional carriers as well that can make a difference for you in your market. That same philosophy carries over to the standalone prescription drug plans where those national carriers are available to you through our organization. We have a very large and robust Medicare supplement offering, including some offerings by our guest speakers today with Aetna. And in addition to that, we also have programs that are designed to help you succeed in this space as well. So some things that can really help you. When we speak to the ancillary products in each of those categories, you have the national leaders in those subtopics, and you'll notice, it's alphabetical, but we have Aetna in each of these categories, and that is, of course, our guest speakers for today. So when we look at Medicare opportunity, obviously everyone speaks to the aging of the baby boomers, the silver tsunami, 1 every 10 seconds, 10,000 plus a day, whatever it happens to be. But if you're basing the opportunity just on age, we're a little off because there are a number of folks that are eligible for Medicare coverage and defer it for one reason or another. So that 60 million or so, well, they're not all accessing Medicare benefits, but that is offset by folks that are under the age of 65, about 1/6 to 1/7 of the Medicare population that need our help as well and may well qualify for the programs what we discussed today, which is important because that Medicare profile of those beneficiaries shows us that 2/3 of them have 3+ chronic conditions, and they have challenges with their budget, the monies that are coming in, the monies that they have available. So planning for expenses generated by a health condition is paramount, not only to their physical well-being, but also to help them make certain they have the dollars in place to handle whatever their body places upon them. And they have different choices, of course, when they start. They can just add add Part B, do nothing else, they can actually defer that if they wanted to. Most of them obviously don't do that. Some will pick up a prescription drug plan, a standalone only, and self-insure for the balance of the medical portion. Some will pick up a standardized, modernized Medicare supplement to cover that difference and pick up a standalone drug plan as well, or go to the Medicare Advantage program with an all-in type of benefit package through private insurers. We want to make certain that in each of these categories, we have programs in place that can help address specific issues. And there are folks that will look at certain critical illness or cancer plans as, I know I need that. And sometimes it's just asking for that business. What we have with those base programs is kind of an even split to the folks that are just coming on Medicare, including those folks that have deferred accessing those benefits when they're first eligible. But in each of those categories, the cancer plans can apply. There are so many out-of-pocket costs that come into play that this is a question we need to ask everybody that we speak to. And we then can help them also translate what Medicare has for them and the different acronyms that are thrown at them. So you'll see, as part of the follow-up, a link to this guide to help translate all of those acronyms and speak the language in which these folks are subjected to. When we look at the Medicare Advantage side or Medicare overall, of course, we've got the different election periods, the enrollment periods that come into play that might factor with some of the base coverages. These election periods and the special election periods that are available for the individuals for their base coverages don't have a bearing on today's topic. It's not subject to lock-in. It's a program you can offer year-round, no matter what additional needs they may have. This gives us then the opportunity to reach out to the public that hasn't compared or analyzed their coverage annually as they should. Kaiser Family Foundation tells us that 57% of the Medicare beneficiaries don't review or compare their coverages annually. Some of them don't know what they have, don't know what they haven't, and don't recognize the need for additional coverages. And that's especially applicable for certain vulnerable groups. So as we reach out to the Medicare population, we're taking care of folks that aren't annually reviewing, aren't actually understanding the programs that are part of Medicare, and don't use the official resources that are out there through Medicare.gov. Then you layer on the under 65 population with some of the challenges that they see in the ACA market, Obamacare, whatever you want to call it. These folks, too, may well qualify for the programs we discussed today and would have a huge bearing on their financial security as well, because we all know that a lot of those plans have very high deductibles, a lot of out-of-pocket costs. How do we help them with certain circumstances? And how does it help us? Well, one of the things that it does is, with multiple policies in the same household, we're adding to the strength of your retention program. Persistency on the programs across the board are strengthened. And we want to make certain that we protect the business that we have as well. And a good way of doing that is making certain that we have multiple programs in the house. Because, as I mentioned, the government has information out there to help explain the differences. Folks don't necessarily utilize it the way they could or should. And we want to make certain that we have all the material we need at our fingertips to make them aware of the fact that Medicare coverage of cancer treatment services, well, they're on plain Medicare, they need some help with basic medical expense. They have a Medicare Advantage plan, you know all about the good, the bad, and the ugly of some of that, where the therapeutic radiology or some of the other cancer treatments, it's a 20% out of pocket until they reach their max. So we want to cover that. When we look at Medicare Supplements, well, people have choices. Sometimes it can be very comprehensive in the coverage, but we have to realize, too, that a whole bunch of the expense with cancer deals with out-of-pocket exposure, but also, in many circumstances, non-medical expenses. So taking a peek at the out-of-pocket limits on the MA programs, we see where, as a general rule, they can be pretty healthy, and we want to help them manage that 20% that's common in cancer treatment through these plans to their max out-of-pocket. It's coming from a whole bunch of different sources. For those of you who have maybe battled cancer yourself or deal with a family member or a friend who combat this deadly disease, you know that there's a whole bunch of care that is digging into their pocket financially. The base coverages will help with a whole bunch of this, but we also have to take into account the other program or the other factors that can really take somebody into the poorhouse, as my father used to say, because it's not necessarily just the treatment. We have to look at some of the other challenges that people with cancer have and how it affects their overall life. A lot of times we speak to cancer and the fear of that taking that individual from us or we passing because of it. We also have to take into account the number of people that survive cancer, and we want to make certain that we can make the life that they have after that battle, should they beat it, as comfortable as possible. And one of the ways of doing that is alleviating that financial pressure that they have. And we want to make certain that we're able to do that in a format that these folks will understand and appreciate. So in many circumstances, some states have lifted restrictions on visiting with folks. We've always been considered an essential occupation, so we could see people in the pandemic with face-to-face appointments. You all know that a whole bunch of folks didn't want that, and many agents weren't comfortable with it either. So we want to make certain that we work with partners that give us that virtual access as well to address these issues if we're across the kitchen table or if we're behind a screen speaking with them or a phone, whatever it happens to be. And what we have is a population that's being trained to accept that sort of delivery, face-to-face or virtually. But with virtual presentations, we have a whole bunch of factors in the community that are teaching our target audience on how to use this. Over the last year, I have had 9 appointments with one particular physician, all virtual. Never have met the man face-to-face. So we're seeing that healthcare is being delivered in many circumstances in that sort of delivery system. And it's not just the doctors. You see hospitals do a piece of it, dentists, different other providers in the community. But we also have centers of influence that are helping in that area as well, with many people. Well, church services were virtual. So we have different pieces within the community that's training our audience to be digitally savvy. So we finally get to the part as to what we're to talk about today with the Aetna Senior Supplemental Plans and how they can help us with the cancer costs that our prospects and clients have to deal with. And so we've invited our friend Kevin Moore, who's a regional vice president of the South for Aetna Senior Supplemental Programs, to come on and visit with us about Aetna's offering and how they can deliver upon a program that will help us take care of our people. So what I'm doing now is hopefully, there we go, turning control of the helm over to Mr. Moore. Kevin, thank you for coming on and helping us today. And the helm is yours, sir.
All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. DeBoss. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone's having a lovely day. I'm just going to start my slideshow. John, I'm going to assume you'll let me know if for some reason you can't see my screen, but I think you should be good now.
Yep, see the lovely person.
So
wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And thanks again for having me today. Really appreciate it. Always a great opportunity to do anything with you. So thanks for today. So today, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about my division of Aetna Senior Supplemental Insurance, and some of our products, but we're going to really specifically touch on one product, which John has already alluded to, is going to be centered around the cancer product. So lots of great information that he used to share with you already, and so we're going to kind of piggyback off of that. But before we get straight into it, also just want to give you a really brief background on us as a carrier. So again, it's Aetna Senior Supplemental Insurance. Typically what you know us for is going to be our Medicare Supplement product. That's our sort of primary or our flagship product, if you will, but we have lots of other products too, and we're going to highlight one of those especially today. Want to also let you know that we've been in the market for a pretty long time, over 35 years in the senior market. Many of you may have heard of us under the old name Continental Life. That's still sort of the same company that we are, just owned and operated now by Aetna for the last 10 years. Our home office is based out of the Nashville, Tennessee area, actually a suburb there called Franklin, if you've ever visited the area. We're very focused on helping you and helping your clients. We know that that's important to take care of both of you. So that's one of our biggest and primary goals on a regular basis. We do our absolute best to bring you great products at a competitive and a good rate. And the same goes with commissions. We want to pay you top dollar as well. And I think you typically will find that across the board with us when you compare us to some of the other products offered by other carriers. We're going to pay as well or better to the agent. So as I mentioned before, our primary product is our Medicare supplement, but we've got a complete lineup of other products that are designed for cross-selling, primarily in the senior market, but not just in the senior market. It goes well beyond that. We'll touch on that here in a few minutes as well. Want to also let you know that we are an A-rated company by AM Best, which kind of gives us that what they call the excellent rating. So you know that you're representing one of the best and your client is getting service from one of the best when you go out and offer Aetna Senior Supplemental Products. We do operate under 5 different charters or entities, which you all see listed here on this page. If you look at these closely, it kind of sounds like they're all different companies, and I get that because they typically have company in the name. But in reality, these are all just different names that we use for filing our products. They're all administered and operated out of our office in Franklin, Tennessee, by the same people. It's, the same administrative staff and the same people working all together, one company under Aetna Senior Supplemental. We just use these different names to file products is all. So this is a quick list of all the different types of products we offer. As I mentioned before, Medicare Supplement, a critical illness plan, also called Cancer and Heart Attack or Stroke Plus. And it's really 2 different products. There's one that's a standalone cancer plan, and there's a standalone heart attack stroke plan. A lot of times they're written together in conjunction because those are the 3 major critical illnesses and usually some of the biggest concerns that we have, of course. So sometimes you may choose to cover yourself for all 3 types of occurrences. And in that case, you could write a cancer and a heart attack or stroke product. The products work the same. They just cover things differently. You also have a hospital indemnity flex plan, a dental vision hearing plan, 2 short-term recovery care plans called Home Care Plus and Recovery Care. And then last but not least, we also offer a really nice final expense plan, or a couple of different final expense plans. So as I mentioned before, we're going to specifically focus on our cancer product today. It's one that's near and dear to my heart. I know John, it's obviously very near and dear to his as well, as he mentioned. I know he's had personal experiences, of course. So whenever I go into any of our other products outside of the Medicare supplement side, I tend to always ask everyone 2 questions, and I put these in here into the presentation today because I like to get everyone sort of thinking along these lines. So the first question is, are you in this business because you love to help people? I'm going to assume, because this is sort of a one-way communication, everyone else's line is muted. But by the way, we do welcome you to ask questions through the chat or the questions box in the webinar. And if you do ask questions there and we don't get back to you immediately, John and I will address as many or all of those as we can later as we wrap up. But in the meantime, the answer to this question for everyone, I assume, are you in this business because you love to help people? I would assume is a yes. I've never had anyone that I've encountered in the business who ever gave me a different answer other than yes. Of course, that's why we are in this business. We enjoy helping others, get the benefits and coverage that they need. So that's something we have a passion for typically. So I'm going to assume everyone's answer to that is the same as what I hear from everyone, which is yes. And that's the reason why I'm in this business too, of course. Now, are you also, this will be my second question, are you also in this business because you want to make a living? I don't think there's anyone that in our business who's not doing it without getting paid. I assume most everyone is doing this because not only are they passionate and love to help people, but they also know that's part of how they make their living, or maybe all of how they make their living in many cases, hopefully. So, part of our compensation is, of course, something that we consider when working in this business. So the reason I ask those two questions is that, I think it's important as we go out and we focus on helping, especially the senior population, and typically that's going to involve their Medicare coverage. I think sometimes we have a tendency to stop once we've helped them with their Medicare supplement or their Medicare Advantage plan, or if it's someone who's younger, their major medical plan, and we don't really take it any further. And John highlighted before, there's more to consider there. There's a lot more risk to your financial well-being when you encounter an illness or an injury or whatever the case may be. Whenever you get sick, there's financial considerations and financial impacts. And I think we're, and I'll be blunt and say it, without hurting anyone's feelings, hopefully, I don't think we're really fully doing our jobs unless we're asking our clients about coverage beyond just their Medicare or their major medical. I think there's more that can be done. And if we're passionate about helping people, then why wouldn't we be doing that? If we're also in this business to make a living, why wouldn't we be doing that? Because that is going to not only help our clients more by offering them more coverage and giving the ability to protect themselves more, it's also going to help you because you're going to make more out of the deal in the long run as well. So I think when we go to do this to help our clients, one of the things we need to do is kind of maybe not think so much about the selling aspect of it and think more about how can we educate our clients about what they're facing as far as risk, as far as financial impact, and what kind of solutions can we offer them. So I think that's a big part of what we do, educate our clients and then provide solutions for where their concerns are. This is one way that I think helps me, and I think it helps a lot of others, be able to understand, why do we need additional coverage beyond our major Medicare? And, John already did a really good job of laying out a bunch of those, so I won't try to add too much more to that, but I think that there's some other things that we can also consider. And this is one, I always like this graph or this chart here because it helps me think about if I had a cancer policy or another type of healthcare policy, how likely am I to use it? Well, first, if you look at this, let's talk about your homeowner's insurance. Typically you have to have that if you own a home, so we're required to have it, but our chances of using it are pretty slim. You really only have a 0.04% chance of ever filing a claim on that homeowner's policy. So, why we have to have it, you sometimes wonder. Well, we do, because in the off chance that we do unfortunately need to use it, it's going to come in very handy. But the chances are pretty low that you use it. Same goes for your auto policy. We all are required to have that auto insurance. It's really important, and it's a peace of mind thing if and when something does occur that, is unfortunate when driving a car or involving a car. But we have that insurance. Our chances of using it, though, are on the grand scale pretty low, only a 0.06% chance. Now, if you flip a little bit and you look at a cancer policy, not everyone has that. We're not required to have it. Although our chances of being diagnosed are very high, unfortunately. So if you happen to have a cancer policy, your chances of using it are 40%. 40%. We're not even required to have it. So, again, why do we not all have one? Well, we should, because our chances of using it are pretty high. And then getting into some of the other coverages, which we're not going to really focus on today, but just for the sake of trying to illustrate it a little bit better. If you had a long-term care policy, which many of us do not, because one, it's very expensive, and two, it's also very difficult to qualify for. But if you are fortunate enough to have one, you have a 70% chance of using it. 70% chance of using a long-term care policy. And then a dental policy, which many of us do have, but not everyone, you do have a 100% chance of filing a claim on that. Taking care of our dental health is important. A lot of us, don't take that for granted. It's something that's very important to many for many reasons, not just your overall health, but also it's kind of a vanity thing because it has to do with how you look. So it's something that many tend to put a lot of effort into. So your chances of using that policy are very high. And then last but not least, if you happen to have a final expense policy, your chances are 100% because, as we all know, death is unavoidable. So we're going to use that coverage at some point if we have it. So again, just wanted to kind of lay that out there to give you, and I maybe spent a little more time on that than I wanted to, so my apologies. I just get to talking about it, and I find the stats interesting. So getting into this policy, and I'm going to focus primarily on the cancer aspect of this, but just know that for anything and everything that we share with you about cancer, know that pretty much the same applies for the heart attack stroke version of this policy. It works, pretty much the exact same way. It just covers something different. So what I would say about this type of policy is that, this is really something that you're not going to get sales just by default on this. You're going to have to work for it a little bit because it's something that most people don't want to talk about. For one, they don't want to think about it. I think just, the word cancer itself has a negative connotation. Anytime you start talking about that, it tends to just kind of give you not the best feelings and not the best thoughts. But I can tell you right now that as an agent, I would much rather get a call from a client thanking me because I helped them get a cancer policy, as opposed to the call from someone who's saying, I just got diagnosed, what can you do for me? And believe me, you do get those calls. Unfortunately, once you're diagnosed, it's a little too late. That's kind of like, wanting to go out and buy an auto policy after you already wrecked the car. That's not the way it works, unfortunately. So I think it's really important for us and what we're doing to help our clients to start these conversations. Like I said, they're not very often comfortable conversations, but we need to get our clients talking and thinking about this. And I think one of the easiest way to do it is, you can ask questions like, do you have cancer coverage now? Many don't. So that's a great way to start the conversation. Do you know anyone who's had cancer? Almost everyone does. I can assure you, pretty much everyone on this call today, more than likely has been impacted by cancer in some way in their lifetime, either by a friend or a family member. I have had many personal experiences, and I'll say that a family friend earlier this week, I attended a funeral for someone who passed away at 51 years old from a cancer diagnosis. So it happens every day. It's a regular occurrence. So start those conversations. It's better to have it now instead of having it after it's already too late. Many people, again, aren't going to want to talk about it. That's why it's incumbent on you, the agent, to start that conversation. Share your personal stories. Personal stories are some of the most impactful to get your client thinking and feeling like they need to do something. They need to take action for themselves. So I'm not going to go through all these stats. I think John illustrated a lot of the risk associated with a diagnosis like this already. But I put this in here really just to show you that, a lot of times we get agents who come back and say, that sounds like a great policy. I just don't really feel comfortable talking to my client about because I don't understand it very well myself. Well, I'm here to tell you that our product materials, which are available on our website, and I didn't mention the website yet, but I'll say it now. It's aetnaseniorproducts.com, aetnaseniorproducts.com. If you get any of our material from our website, it's going to have this type of information in the brochure, which you could, share with a client by email, or you could do it in a WebEx type meeting, or you could hand it to them personally if you're meeting with them in person. But I would just lay this material and information out and then talk about it. Use it as a part of the conversation. We've got heart attack and stroke up here, but cancer is the one I'm focusing on now. I think the biggest stat to me, all these are helpful in terms of educating your client, but I think the biggest one that stands out to me is the one at the bottom left-hand corner about cancer, and it's that 41% of men and 38% of women will be diagnosed during their lifetimes. That's 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women. Those are staggering odds. The likelihood of us being diagnosed is very, very high. And as we already know, the impact of cancer on you from a health standpoint is huge and can be devastating, but that's not the only risk. It's not just about your health, and I'll get more into that in just a second. This is actually a screenshot that I took directly out of our brochure, and I'll just leave it up here. I won't read it, but this is the kind of thing you can show your client and just kind of help them start thinking about what are my chances of dealing with this? What are my chances of potentially being impacted by this type of illness? And then I'll flip to the next page. Here's just the same stats that I showed you a minute ago, but kind of in a little bit, nicer looking graph or chart that again can be helpful to show your clients. So, use this material. It's there to help you, to help educate your clients. And then this is another portion that's straight out of our brochure. It gives the good news that the survival rates and the treatment that's available to people who are diagnosed with cancer is improving. It's getting better. There is some good news with cancer diagnosis. There's also lots of bad news. And without going through all the stats, I'll just say that a lot of the bad news is associated with the cost. Science and medical technology is improving, getting better and better at fighting these illnesses, but it comes at a very steep price. So the amount of cost being rolled on and passed on beyond what your major medical covers, that's where we come in and have to kind of pick up and pay that cost. The one thing I'll highlight under the bad news section is that 42% of the costs associated with cancer are indirect, meaning it's not covered by any type of insurance. That's something that's just coming straight out of your pocket. And that's where a policy like this helps. That's what this product's going to do for you. It's going to give you money when you need it the most. I can think of lots of instances where I've had conversations with friends or family or just people that I've met in the industry who have talked about, my mother or my wife or my brother or whoever was battling cancer, and the health impact was enormous, but what we didn't really think about as much, because health comes first sometimes, or more often than not, was just the financial stress that it caused. And I can attest to that. Here's one of my personal stories. My mother was diagnosed. She passed away after an 18-month battle with cancer, and that's been almost 20 years ago now. But when she was diagnosed, obviously very, very difficult for the family, and we went through a traumatic time just trying to help and support and kind of spend what time we had together. But I can tell you that the thing that surprised me the most, especially now looking back, is that I feel like I lost more sleep and stressed more over the financial burdens that we face, just the impact of how are we going to pay for this, how are we going to deal with that from a financial standpoint. We spent more time worrying about that than just spending time with our mom. And so that's a regret I have. And so I have this plan for myself and my family because I don't want to put in that situation. I'm still a fairly young guy, 44 years old, but the closer I get to, the older I get, the older all of us get, the more likely we are to face a diagnosis like that. And that doesn't mean that you couldn't certainly face it at younger ages, because children are diagnosed every day with this illness. But I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I was sick and couldn't just help take care of my family. So I feel very strongly that having a policy like this is going to help you at a time when you need it the most. So that's why I'm a believer in this and why I think everyone needs it. The last thing you want to do, or the last thing you want to be concerned about as you're fighting for your life, is how are you going to pay the bills, or how are you going to take care of your family. So let me spend some time now talking about how the product actually works. So you can write it on anyone between the ages of 18 and 89. So wide age variety there, someone who's just become an adult all the way to age 89. Not a lot of products go above age 80 as far as issue ages go. And ours goes all the way to 89. So that's there may be other cancer products out there. In fact, I know there is, but I don't think you're going to see that most of them will be able to still be issued at age 89. And by the way, I've had confusion before about, well, does that mean that when they turn 90, they lose the coverage? No, it just means that you can't buy a policy after your 89th or after your 90th birthday. So as long as you buy the policy, it's in effect for the remainder of your life, or until you exhaust the benefits, if you use the benefits. So issue ages are 18 to 89. It's a flexible plan in terms of how you can cover it. You can write the cancer only version, as I've mentioned many times, or you can write the heart attack or stroke to go along with it, or you can write the heart attack or stroke separate individually by itself if they're more concerned with that. you do have the ability to add on a recurrence rider to both the cancer plan or the heart attack stroke plan. And I'll talk more about the recurrence in a minute. You can write it on an individual. You can write it on a couple. You can write it on a family. You can write it for a single parent with children. So there's a variety of ways you can do it. One thing that definitely sticks out about our product, and I may be getting a little ahead of myself on this, but I'll just mention it real quick, is that if you have a couple with an age gap, let's say that one spouse or one person in the couple is much older than the other, you always will want to base the policy off of the youngest spouse or the youngest adult on the policy, and that will be what the rate's based off of. You can save a lot of money there. So it's a lump sum cash benefit that's paid upon diagnosis. So, if you have the policy, you're diagnosed, then you get paid a lump sum amount, and the face amount can be anywhere from as low as $5,000 up to $75,000, depending on how much coverage you purchase. I personally have a $50,000 policy for myself and everyone in my family. And by the way, it helps to buy it when you're younger. So if you deal with clients who are not seniors yet, that's an ideal time to buy because it's much cheaper and the rates don't go up on this product. So when you buy it, your rates are locked in. Let's see here if I'm forgetting anything. Oh, there is a 30-day waiting period. So if you buy the policy today, you can't make any claims for the first 30 days, which means you don't want to get diagnosed with anything. I would tell your client, hey, no doctor visits or anything for the first 30 days. Your diagnosis would have to come after that initial 30 days. Things that are good to know or what I consider important to know, ways to get affordable coverage. One thing I can tell you, obviously a lot of us are working in the senior market. So it is going to be better to buy this policy before your 65th birthday if you can. So if you deal with a lot of folks who are turning 65, you're trying to help them find their Medicare supplement or their Medicare Advantage plan, several months before they turn 65, I wouldn't wait till their 65th birthday to purchase this because this thing is age banded and it's in 4-year age band. So you're going to save more money if you buy it at age 64 versus age 65. So keep that in mind. If you're dealing with someone, who's a senior, obviously they're going to be picking either a Med Supp or a Med Advantage plan. And I think everybody needs this, regardless of whether you have an MA or a Med Supp plan. If you do have a Medicare Advantage plan, I will tell you that just the way that Medicare Advantage works, it can be really difficult from a cost perspective to deal with a cancer diagnosis. Medicare Advantage is great. I love it. I know I work for a Med Supp carrier, so you may think I only would recommend a Med Supp. No, I'm not here to say that at all. I think Medicare Advantage is an amazing product, but because you usually are paying a zero premium or very, very little premium, when you get sick, that's when you typically look at the most out-of-pocket costs, and cancer is no exception to that. Cancer, the way it's treated and the types of drugs that are administered can get extremely expensive. So my sincere advice to you would be, let's focus on getting them a cancer plan for any of your Medicare Advantage clients at a minimum. And then Med Supp as well, because Med Supp, oftentimes they're going to be traveling to get treatment because they aren't tied to a network like they are with Medicare Advantage. So they, for example, where does everyone want to go for cancer treatment in this region? Typically MD Anderson in Houston. Well, unless you have free room and board in Houston, Texas, you're going to be paying out of pocket for that travel cost. And that's going to be something else that your insurance doesn't coverage. But cash does pay well for that type of expense. And so that's what this plan pays. It will pay you cash for a diagnosis. And as I said before, benefits are paid upon diagnosis. It's the same lump sum benefit amount for each covered person. So if you have a family plan, everybody on that plan is entitled to the same benefit. If you do cover children are going to still stay covered until age 26 or until they're financially independent, which is never. So they're going to be until age 26. There's no hospitalization required or treatment required to be able to receive your benefits. Let's say you don't want to go in the hospital or you don't even want to go through treatment, but you've been diagnosed. You don't have to. You still get paid regardless. Maybe you want to go get treatment that's non-traditional and there's no insurance that pays for it. That's another place where cash will come in handy. Maybe you just want to go on a vacation or buy a boat. Hey, that's up to you. You use this money however you want. It's your cash, your money. I already mentioned the youngest partner will be the primary. So if you do run into an age gap, I ran into a couple a few years ago that there was almost a 30-year age gap. So you bet I was telling them, hey, they should buy a policy immediately and make sure you put the youngest person as the primary. And they did, and they saved a lot of money. I talked about the recurrence rider before. So the way that would work, if you were to purchase the cancer product and then let's say you got your benefits, that doesn't mean that the policy is over if you have this recurrence rider. What happens is you're going to have that benefit build back up over time, and here's the time period and the amounts, so that if you're diagnosed again some years down the road, then you're going to get at least a portion or all of your benefit, depending on how long it's been. If you're diagnosed with cancer once, your chances of being diagnosed again are very high, unfortunately. So I think the recurrence rider is very important, and it's inexpensive. It's only, $1 or $2 extra a month to be able to add on the recurrence rider. So the policy is guaranteed renewable. Benefits are paid directly to the policyholder. We don't increase premiums because of age or health. I said before that your premiums are locked in, and that's true. I will caution myself by saying that technically the rates could be raised. We've never done that. We never intend to do that. If they did, it would never be based on the client's age or health. It would be based on an entire block of business rate increase. We've planned for us to never have to do that. So it's highly, highly, highly unlikely. And like I said, there's no chance of it ever being raised based on your age or health. So like if I buy it today, I'm going to pay pretty much that same amount, more than likely, or, very close to that. It could go up a little bit, but it's not likely. There's no phone interview required to be able to do this. That's always important. We take what we kind of consider a simple app on this, meaning it's just yes or no questions only. So basically that means that if they can answer no to all the questions on the app, then they'll be able to get the policy. The only other thing that you need to do as an agent is do a little bit of field underwriting in addition to the app. And I'm talking about checking the drugs. So on our website, again, AetnaSeniorProducts.com, you make sure you go and check our drug list for any drugs they may be taking. It's real easy. You can just type in the first few letters of the drug and it will come up and say whether we will accept that for this policy or not. Sometimes, unfortunately, someone's not been diagnosed with cancer, but they're taking like a cancer drug because they're likely to be diagnosed. If that's the case, they're going to have a difficult time getting a policy, but that's unusual. Usually most everyone can qualify for this. It's not a lot of detailed underwriting or anything like that. And also, an underwriter never really looks at this policy or looks at this application unless there's a claim within the first 2 years. So it's a 2-year look back. Once you've passed the first 2 years and you file claims, you're generally not going to have any issue at all. But within the first 2 years, you can bet an underwriter is going to take a serious look at that. So, the old saying goes, if you lie on the app, you don't get paid. So make sure you fill it out properly. So I took a screenshot here of a paper app. This is actually a few years old, this app, but it hasn't changed at all. But this is just what the yes or no questions look like. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like. This is all you're really looking at for health questions. This will be it's like a 1-page app. This is the top portion, and then here would be the bottom portion of the app. And that would be if you were doing the cancer and heart or stroke all together. I probably need to update this. So, not that the questions have changed or they're out of date, but I just really wanted to show you what it looks like. It's not anything detailed. And by the way, you don't have to do a paper app. We do this online. You are using our e-app, which if any of you have ever used it, you probably know our e-app is great. It's really easy and very user-friendly. And with our e-app, you don't have to do any kind of wet signature. The signature is really easy on it. If you've ever done it, you know that you can do it just by getting them to give you a key phrase over the phone, and that will act as their signature. it's really, really swift and easy to use. So here's an example I worked up just to kind of give you a little bit of a flavor. I based this on a 65-year-old. If you were to give them a $10,000 lump sum plan, if you went cancer only, it'd be $29.58 a month. And again, this is a 65-year-old. If you caught them when they were 64, there's a significant reduction in that. If you were to do the heart stroke plan, it would be $30.83. If you did the recurrence rider on the cancer plan, it would take it up to just $32.43. If you did the heart or stroke recurrence with heart or stroke with the recurrence, it'd be $34.75. So if you did the full product without recurrence riders, it's only $60 a month. That would cover them for cancer, heart attack, or stroke. And you could get multiple benefits out of that, of course. If you did the full product with the recurrence rider, it would be $67.18. I did a little calculation on that. It came up with, if you had that product for 10 years, you'd pay about $8,000 in premium. And during that time, you would be entitled to $40,000 in benefits. So that's a pretty good return on your money there. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to be diagnosed, but again, it's pretty likely, unfortunately. So a lot of bang for your buck there in the benefit. Again, just to review real quick, issue ages are 18 to 89. It's a lump sum benefit. You can go as low as $5,000 or as high as $75,000. Simplified issue, meaning just yes or no questions. You can write it online using our e-app. You do have those recurrence riders available to you. You can cover multiple different people. You can build the coverage appropriately for a family or for a couple or an individual person. The same benefit is available to all people on the policy. It's designed to help offset your out-of-pocket expenses. Benefits are paid to you upon diagnosis, no hospitalization or treatment. There is a waiting period, but it's only 30 days. The youngest should be the primary. When I say youngest, you can't put a child as the primary, so it's got to be an adult who's a member, of the adults of the family. And then also, sometimes we get asked this question, so I tried to be preemptive and say that skin cancer is covered as long as it's the serious form of skin cancer, which is called malignant melanoma. So malignant melanoma, that would trigger a full benefit, not just a partial benefit. Some other plans out there I know only pay partial benefit for things like that, but not us. And just about any type of cancer is covered, by the way. One question we also get sometimes is, what about in situ or in situ cancer, sort of an unusual form? That is covered. That would trigger a benefit. Some other carriers don't cover that, but we do cover it. So I'll wrap that up, and hopefully John will help me out with questions here in a minute. Just a couple more slides really quickly. Want to let you know that we're here to help you. We do have an email address here. It's aetssiinformation@aetna.com to email our sales team. Again, our website is aetnaseniorproducts.com. Phone number was 866-272-6630 if you want to get a hold of agent support. And then here's my number and my team's number, as well as regardless of where you are in the country, you're welcome to call me. But we do have 4 separate regional teams. Depending on what state you live in, you should call the appropriate RVP. But again, I'm happy to help anybody. I don't really care where you're from. So my number is on the far right-hand side, and then you have my team there, Justine and Suzanne. So I will leave that up there for a second. Actually, you know what? I'll come back to this if you need to. And I know John's going to send this out, so you're going to get a copy of this as well. But I also want to mention sales incentives. So we always are running incentives to put a little extra money in your pocket. So this will be included in what goes out to you, but just know that we incentivize up to $100 per app for a Medicare supplement sale, depending on the type of sale. And then we'll also do $25 per ancillary sale. So on the cancer plan, and then any of our other ancillary plans, you have the opportunity to put some more money in your pocket. And that's on top of commission, of course. And so that's all I had. As my voice is going away on me, I've been talking all day and it's catching up with me. So I will stop and say thank you. And John, whatever questions you have, we will be happy to talk about.
Awesome. And we'll do that. Thank you, Kevin. We've got a number of questions. I preliminarily addressed each of those as you were presenting. but I want to go over some so we can emphasize the answer for it. A lot of them deal with, are they going to get copies of some of the information that we've disseminated? And I did mention that today's presentation was being recorded. You will receive a link to the recording. You'll receive a PDF of the slide deck as well. And as I mentioned, the statistical information that was referenced will be coming to you as part of the email follow-up as well. One of the things that I missed and should have addressed too, Kevin, was where the plans are actually available. So the question specifically is this cancer program or the cancer, heart attack, stroke program available in California?
Yep, great question. And I hate to say it, but no, unfortunately, the state of California does not offer this plan currently. We don't have a lot of our ancillary products in California. As any resident of California in our business knows, that sometimes it's difficult to get things approved there for whatever reason. Although I will tell you, even though we don't have this plan, we have received approval on one of our final expense plans in California, first time ever that we'll have that. So look for that to be coming soon, and we'll add that to our MedSup plan. Cancer, and actually as I jog my memory, I'm remembering that the cancer plan that we've talked about today is available in California, but it's limited to under 65. So you can write it, but you've got to write it before age 65 in the state of California. So hopefully that helps you there.
Awesome. We'll make certain that we include your listing of products and where they're available, Kevin, for everyone as part of the follow-up. You did address the melanoma question that inevitably comes up, and we thank you for that. We want to look at this too. Is it available to be offered as perhaps a list bill for companies, or can an employer provide this as part of the benefit package to their employees?
Yeah, great questions, and I appreciate to whoever asked that, because that's actually something we've been trying to develop for some time, is the ability to offer a list bill type of service. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we have gotten our feet into that just a little bit over the last several months. And so we're currently seeking opportunities to offer this to, the appropriate group or groups that are out there. So if you have an opportunity for list bill, contact the Aetna SSI sales team, and I'll go back to show you the contact information, and we'll help you coordinate with our administrators in the home office to help get that set up.
Awesome. Now, as a fee-for-service type of delivery where the payments go directly to the insured, or unless they assign it to a provider, the question is, are the payments that are delivered, the payouts for this policy, taxable, or are they tax-free?
Oh, great question. And I normally do say that and forgot to mention it this time. So yes, they are tax-free benefits. So the benefits that you receive from any type of payout from these policies, they are tax-free, and they will come to you directly as the face amount that you purchased.
Awesome. And the last one is a bit of a generalization, but and I think I addressed it, but is this treated as health insurance?
Good question. No, it's not really considered health insurance. It's more filed as like an indemnity plan, which it does fall under a health filing, but it is more of an indemnity plan than a straight up health insurance. Like there would be some disclaimers if you were to go through the fine print where it would say, this is not health insurance. In other words, you wouldn't want to sell someone under the impression that this is going to replace your major medical, because there is concerns about sometimes fraudulent activity happening out there. So it's not considered major health insurance. It's an indemnity plan, and it's really designed to complement other major medical coverage.
Awesome. And I think that's what we have at present for questions. I'm going to assume control again, if I may, Kevin. If you would hang on just for a few minutes as we finish the presentation in case another question pops up. But we want to make certain that we help people understand why they would want to do this program with Premier Marketing as well. We do offer different support programs for the agents, including electronic contracting through the SuranceBay program. Many of the carriers will have a direct electronic link, and we'll use whatever's fastest. but this is a great place to store your agent profile information. We do provide discounted errors and admissions coverage for qualified agents. What makes you qualified? You got to contract with us. But this is a program that you own. So it could be applicable for any program in the insurance world with any contracting marketing organization. So you own this, and it applies across the board. A great way to make certain that you cover your financial wherewithal as well. We do also offer discounted continuing education through our association with WebCE to make certain that your license stays in play. And you do have an opportunity to add to your own benefit package as an independent agent through a modified guarantee issue disability income program where you're paid a commission on that on yourself. Much as where today's presentation is being recorded and made available to everyone who raised their hand about this program, it's also available on our website at premiersmi.com and on the YouTube channel, and past presentations are also there. So different marketing tips and hints and presentations, programs about different carriers and different products are there for your use, both specific for carriers and generic in nature as well. We do offer our contracted agents use of Medicare Center, which is a multi-quote engine powered device that offers a CRM so you can manage your clients without cost through a universal login, and you have a program that is powered by Connecture, powered by Sunfire, and powered by CSG, which has some really cool ways of cross-selling as well, and a link to a short presentation on how that is used will be part of the follow-up for you. Kevin mentioned the different incentives that come into play, and you see carriers outside of the MA and PDP world do that upon occasion. Aetna is very strong about making certain that they incentivize the agent and maximize the potential of compensation. We have all of those programs located on one spot of our website, so you can go in and examine the different programs that are available. They do help you qualify for premier incentive programs as well, which this past year morphed from a cruise to a virtual getaway where it's cash in the agent's pocket, and that's being paid very shortly. We do also offer an opportunity for you to utilize different systems to get in front of people to offer these programs. So as Kevin mentioned, you see a increase in the premiums on programs like today's from 64 to 65. There are many agents that are using a cold call system to speak to the cancer programs for 63 and 64-year-olds, aging them in to an opportunity to work with you with different programs in the Medicare realm down the road. So we can help you with that. We also can help you with presenting these programs in the different centers of influence in the community as part of a retail opportunity that you may have had in the past or continue to have, but also presenting these types of programs to other centers of influence, such as faith-based organizations in the community, live or virtually, and a way to market to providers who deliver this care. We're speaking of programs that cover specific illnesses specifically today. How we present this to the provider community can be an opener for dealing with that population as well. Some carriers do generate prospects throughout the year. We see a lot of that with MA and PDP carriers during AEP, but if you have a relationship with those organizations in many circumstances, that's going to give you an opportunity to work year-round with the various programs that they have. We do also offer internet leads. We'll talk about that briefly here in a moment, direct mail support, and we have specific referral programs that can help you as well. A link to working your prospects and clients for referrals will be part of the follow-up that comes to you today. I mentioned the mail program. This is a program based on production that deeply discounts the cost of a mailing. It does not designate a specific letter that you need to send. So as you work with the preferred lead vendors that we vet and make certain that we help stay in compliance, you can actually send out a letter for products that you didn't sell and use it as a lead-in or however you want to do it. There are really good support programs with these different lead vendors that can help you maximize the return on direct mail. If you don't want to direct your own direct mail program, we do also offer programs that help you with purchasing unused, fresh mail returns as well. Now, keep in mind, when you direct your own program, you get that response in a CRM for you immediately upon receipt. If you purchase a direct mail program follow-up, it may be a tad older, obviously, so we want to make certain that you're aware of that. And the lead costs for these will vary according to supply and demand and what part of the world that you're in. That internet lead program deals with Facebook leads for final expense and Medicare, which gives you a great opportunity to speak to specific illness programs like cancer programs, cancer, heart attack, stroke programs with Aetna. And remember, every time that you speak to someone, it's an opportunity that if it's not a sale for that product, as Kevin mentioned, if you haven't had cancer, a family member hasn't, you know there are other people in the world they know that have, and it is a great way to get in front of other people simply by mentioning a program that covers such a demand program. What we look to do is make this all an opportunity to work with you. We want to make certain that we deliver upon programs that can help you build your book of business and your agency. And cancer programs like the one offered by Aetna are a great way to do that. So as you make this part of your personal marketing program, one of the keys is not to delay, not to procrastinate. To quote my cinematic hero, John Wayne, in the movie The Cowboys, we're burning daylight. Let's just make certain that we move forward with it. As I mentioned, we will be sending out this follow-up for you, and you can reply to that email for additional information as well. But you can also give us a buzz at 1-800-365-8208. If you're working with a premier marketer, they'll have details for you on this specific program. If you haven't worked with us in the past, we'll make certain that we assign a person that can help you walk through these programs for the marketing support, but also the basic contracting information to make certain that we're ready to help you get up and go. You can access this information on our website as well at premiersmi.com. I'm going to take a peek one more time for questions. And yes, Carl, this is for tax purposes. It is not considered income, so it's not a taxable event there. That said, Kevin, I think we've got everything taken care of. I want to thank everybody who invested their time, their most valuable resource, with us here today. Went a little longer than an hour because I talked too much, plain and simple. But it's an opportunity for us to thank you for that investment. Thank you for your relationship. If you've done business with us in the past, I thank you for your business. And it's greatly appreciated. We want to help you drive even more business for yourself and our shared interest in programs such as the Aetna Cancer, Heart Attack, and Stroke program. So all that said and done, I want to thank you once again for coming on the line with us. Watch for follow-up that will come out. Expect some calls from some of us to speak to you about this program specifically. And until that happens, I thank Kevin once again for his presentation. I thank you for coming aboard. And until we speak again, I wish you good selling. Thanks so very much. We'll talk to you soon.